So this was an issue that became obvious to me when I was teaching on my latest placement up at. I had a student who had cerebral palsy, which meant that the left side of his body was not functioning completely. Fortunately, this student was easy to cater for because he was quite keen on sport, which meant that I only had to make small adjustments for him, like double dribble rule didn't really occur for him in basketball. This left me with a question: what if he was reluctant? What if he was in a wheelchair? How could I adapt? So to answer this question, I decided to interview my cousin Grace. She's a two-time Paralympian for the Australian Paralympics team. She had an accident when she was 12 years old, fell off her horse and was paralysed from the waist down. So here she is.
Yeah, I did PE from year 8 to year 10, but I probably spent more time like umpiring or something like that rather than. I didn't really modify anything in particular, so it was like if you can't do it, then you just sit on the bench, or if you know the rules, then you can umpire. I had a tennis wheelchair at the time, so I could try and like be as involved as I could with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I couldn't play, then
they just wouldn't include you at all.
Well, I guess the biggest thing in terms of like school play and things like that is not adapting it.
Yeah, in PE.
Yeah. In PE, like is not adapting it is certainly worse than at least giving them a shot.
Yeah.
One of the things is though, even if you adapt it, then you've got to be really aware of how the other kids are going to respond to that. So, say you introduce, I don't know, but like a game where everyone can play, including the kid in the wheelchair or with CP or whatever. But say if the kid with CP is still really disadvantaged in terms of like how quickly they can run, then letting the other kids not slow themselves down to accommodate this kid or something like that. So I think that's the biggest thing, giving them you want to give them a positive experience, because if they have a negative experience, then they're not going to want to do it again.
Right.
I wouldn't go so far. Well, potentially, yeah. Say you've got a kid with cerebral palsy.
Yeah.
Knowing whether they have falls or they're likely to trip, they're things you've got to consider, especially if they're going to be running or walking around a lot.
They may have a higher risk.
Yeah, they may have a higher risk. Probably the bigger thing to think about is more of like the equipment that you could use to help overcome those things.
Yeah.
998. 999. 1000. Oh, hi there. So it turns out Houston and Wilson did a study recently in 2002 that concluded that the most prevalent barriers were professional preparation, equipment, programming, and time. Successful physical activity experiences for children with disabilities are contingent upon factors related to teacher preparation, teacher attitudes, and perceived and actual barriers to instruction. In order to cater for children with a physical disability, it needs to be adapted. So what is adaptive physical activity? Well, it's been defined as physical education which has been adapted or modified so that it is as appropriate for the person with a disability as it is for a person without a disability. Fortunately, finding resources isn't at all hard. There are plenty of websites, books, and scholarly journals to do with adaptive physical activity that you can find on the internet or elsewhere. So, that's it from me. Take it away, Jim.